Thank you, Ryan, for being with us today and speaking to my audience about something very, very cool, the things that Pure Physio is doing, what they've done in the past, and currently what you guys are doing uniquely to continue to better serve our communities when it comes to health and wellness. So thanks for coming on today.
Yeah, man, I'm glad to be here. And yeah, health and wellness is something that, I'm obviously passionate about. I've been, I guess, in the world of health and wellness and medicine and physical therapy for years now. So yeah, excited just to kind of chat about it and really how it's been affected with everything going on and how we as Pure Physio have continued to try to be valuable in these times of uncertainty. So my title is I'm a doctor of physical therapy. I'm a physical therapist here in Cleveland, Ohio with Pure Physio. I'm a co-owner of that practice with my partner, Matt Stevens, Dr. Matt Stevens, who's the actual founder of Pure Physio. I've been involved, or I guess I've been a physical therapist now for about five and a half years now. When I first started out as a physical therapist, I was a traveling physical therapist. So essentially what that means, I was traveling throughout the country, working in different sports medicine clinics and facilities and really gyms throughout the country. What I did from that standpoint was did it about three and a half years. So really what I tried to do is, when we were talking off air, was try to sharpen my edge, really just try to gain a skill set and experience of just trying to become better resource for the clients and patients that I was going to work with throughout my career. So I did that for about three and a half years, ran some different clinics throughout the country, ranging from Hawaii to Boston, before I finally decided to settle down in Cleveland, Ohio, where, long story short, I opened up my own practice, realized that the hill I was going to have to climb doing my own thing was going to be really, really tough for me to do, not having any network, not knowing anybody, no referral sources. And then I looked at my now partner, Matt Stevens of Pure Physio. He was looking for someone to kind of come on board and help take that to the next level. And I was like, yeah, man, everyone's, I know all about you because I researched you from a competitor standpoint. I know what you're about. It seems like we click really well and we share a common mindset and values and belief system around what health and wellness and physical therapy should be. So I joined up with him in 2017, I believe, and been hitting it hard ever since. So yeah, Pure Physio, we're here in Cleveland, Ohio. We're essentially, I guess, physical therapy, again, at heart out. Sometimes I don't even like to use that word because it really kind of pigeonholes us into this vision of what most people think physical therapy is. And
Right.
I feel like we don't really kind of fit that model. But we're physical therapists. We work with the active population, anyone from CrossFitters to runners to, if you lift weights, if you pick up kids from the floor, really anyone who moves their body and uses it as a tool. We try to be valuable for them and be a resource to help them get out of pain or help them perform or really work towards whatever goals they might have for themselves. If we can help them start bridging that gap, getting them from point A, which is really whenever you reach out to us on a phone call, we consider that point A. And then we really try to help you visualize whatever point B looks like. What's your end goal? What's your why? What's your intent behind whatever you're trying to do and what's holding you back from that? We try to be the resource that gets you there. So
You bring up a good point about not just doing the research, the market research based on your competition, but also looking at individuals as potential partners. I think
yeah,
that's
man.
an extremely valuable mindset. And I'm glad you
Yeah.
touched on that because I think in the fitness space, very commonly we find ourselves in a defensive kind of this competitive mindset. And really with my effort in doing this series in highlighting on my platform the people in the space that I've within my network of fitness professionals, the people that I respect and look up to, is just really that, is just to have these helpful, productive conversations around better health and wellness, and also to support one another and to bring light
Yeah,
to
man.
our unique practices.
It wasn't always that way. Obviously, when I came to Cleveland, it's funny that you bring that up. What I did was, when I came to Cleveland from a market research standpoint, I had a map of Cleveland and really where every gym was throughout Cleveland, CrossFit, whether it was a yoga studio, different clinicians, and I just had little maps of everything and how I was going to
Mhm.
network and connect the dots, who knew who. And in the big circle, really, and no offense to anyone else in Cleveland, but when I was looking at the competitors in my area, I had a big circle around Pure Physio. I listened to you touched on, I listened to like a podcast or something. It was like, don't view competitors as someone who's, two opposite ends of the street.
Mhm.
Look at them, look at someone you can work with and collaborate with. And, he was obviously someone who's really valuable in that regard. And I just reached out and said, hey man, I'm new to the area. I heard a lot of great things about you. I'm just even looking for some mentorship. Maybe we could like, do some stuff, collaborate on some things. And it's turned into what it is now. And without sending that, without, I guess, checking my own ego,
Hmm.
I'm saying, I don't need him. I definitely did, and we're in a good place now. So, but
That's awesome.
100%, man, don't view people as competitors. Always look at a way where you can reach out and network and just
Sure.
benefit one another.
And if the team, if the business is founded on those kinds of principles of being accepting, of willing
Yeah.
to share your craft and your knowledge and experience, I mean, it's no wonder to speak on the success of Pure Physio. So I think that's an absolutely great foundation to have.
Yeah, and that concept just in general is something I've just been, I guess, fascinated with, for lack of a better term. This concept of the give and take, and this is
Mm,
for anyone who's from an entrepreneurial standpoint listening to this. There's a psychologist that talks a lot on this. His name's Adam Grant. He wrote a book, Give and Take. Obstacles was another one, and that was Malcolm Gladwell. Anyway, he's touched on. He has a podcast talking about some of these things, and he's just talking about giving all the time.
hmm.
Um, and there's another book that I read called The Go Giver. Where essentially just talks about the lessons for stratospheric success is really just providing value, giving out to
Hmm.
people. The law of compensation is mean just, is the value that you're giving exponentially greater than what you're trying to get in return.
Mm,
You know what I mean? And so I think that if we can just kind of always have that mindset just in general, and obviously from a physical therapy standpoint, we're trying to give and give people the resource of getting out of pain. But even just things in day-to-day life, yeah, man, it's not going about the way of like, what can you do for me, but
hmm.
just giving, and it's gonna reward you in one way or another. So that's
Yeah,
something
absolutely.
we try to always preach for sure.
I love that. And I think that's why we're in the space that we are, because I think fundamentally and innately, you and I and the people that are part of our professional network, we're the types of people that are always looking for opportunities to give to the people that we care
Yeah,
about,
man.
our audiences. So thanks for touching on that.
One other thing that book touches a lot on, and it's something that I've always struggled with, specifically, is being able to receive as well.
Mm,
And something that it touches on is if we always just give and give and give, but we're unwilling to receive, it blocks the connection. It blocks the feedback loop. And if we just think of something that touches on the way even the world is, the environmental nature is, what do you and I do right now? We're
mhm,
intaking oxygen and we're giving out CO2, right? And
mhm.
if we think about like what trees do, it's the complete opposite of that. So we're all kind of connected in this weird way. So if you and I are passionate about giving, great. But if I was to give you something and say, hey man, for inviting me on this podcast chat, here's a thank you note, here's a Amazon gift card for $50. I really appreciate it. And if you're like, you know what, I don't need that, I'm cool with it. You're blocking now
Interesting.
my
Yeah,
happiness because I'm giving to you and you don't want any of that.
yeah.
So yes, to give is huge. It's valuable. We've touched on that, but also being able to receive, that's what continues to allow people like us to do what we do. So, and that's
I
something that
love
I've
that point.
struggled with a lot myself is give. And when people give me compliments, when people, when my mentorees and my students send me thank you notes, I'm like, no, I enjoy doing it, but maybe now I'm blocking their gift of giving to me because I'm not able to receive it. So I think that's a huge part of it as well, making sure we look at both ends of that spectrum.
Very well said.
Yeah,
Because the place that we give from it's a finite resource, right? It's not
yeah,
unlimited.
100%, man.
We need to refill, we need to refuel. All of that's important. So you bring up a really good point. So
Yeah,
thanks for bringing that up. That's a
worse. It's
very good
powerful.
point to touch on. Powerful stuff. Let's bring it back a little bit to Pure Physio
Yeah,
and its specialty in helping its unique demographic of people. And you mentioned earlier offline that it's not only athletes that you guys work with. Can you speak to that a little bit? Who are the people that you guys currently serve and help?
yes, we work with those clients and those athletes in that patient population. We also just try to make sure that people understand you don't have to be able to lift a barbell in order to seek out our services. So the ways we're trying to make sure that people understand that, it might be where we do lunch and learns at local corporations here, like at Vitamix, which is like a blender company. I just did a
Yeah, we
running.
have one.
Yeah, oh, there you go. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, it's amazing, right? So I just did like a lunch and learn there talking about running, and it was really open to
That's
anyone. And,
awesome.
and I tried to make it not like, here's the way to train for a marathon. It's also here if you want to do a couch to 5K. The sun is now finally out in Cleveland
Mhm.
after 6 months of gray darkness. Is what we see a lot is people get up off the couch and like, oh, well, I'm just going to start doing 10 miles a week. So we want to make sure we kind of
Mm.
cater that message to that population who is a little bit less active, and they just don't have the goals of doing competing for Boston Marathon or something. So
Mhm.
it's a way we're still trying to make sure that, you know, we can still be a valuable resource. But and then when we start talking about kind of how we look at someone individually, all of our assessment protocols, all of our methodology, looking at someone, it's not just, you know, we don't just assess someone to make sure that they can go run a marathon or to do a 225-pound overhead squat. All of those principles apply. You know, when we teach that with Pure Physio, we teach that with the Active Life curriculum.
Mhm.
It's, you know, if you have an understanding of these assessment principles, anyone can be standing in front of you and you can get them to where they want to be. If I'm looking at someone's what we call standing lumbo-pelvic flexion, which essentially looks like a toe touch test, I'm looking at do they have enough range of motion to pick a deadlift up off the floor? Or
Mhm.
if we're looking a little bit more functionally, do they have the range of motion to bend over and pick up their grandkid from the floor?
Mm.
Either way, it still applies, right? So we're
Right.
just making sure that we're taking that, I guess that's that problem and
Mhm.
switching it around to where that solution is now a little bit more visible in terms of how it applies to my
Mm.
day-to-day life, how it applies to why I'm having some pain, how it
Mhm.
applies to here's my end goal of wanting to
Mhm.
do these things without the uncertainty of how I'm going to feel the next day. All of our tools and our skill sets still bridges that gap, and it allows us to connect the dots for that client depending on whatever it might be.
And that must be a breath of fresh air for those people because most likely before reaching out to you, they've probably done their due diligence in trying to get help from other professionals and not having the clarity or maybe just feeling overwhelmed with
Yeah.
the amount of work or the number of protocols that they're going to have to take. But
Right.
when Pure Physio can present it in a way that's simplified and understandable to the functionality of what it is that they're trying to improve on, it must just totally just take a lot of that burden off their shoulders.
Yeah, and that's one thing we definitely, you know, from that initial consultation, that initial evaluation, just making sure that there's no there's no lack of clarity around what we're trying to do. It's, you
Mm.
know, do you have any questions? Do you have any concerns? Is there anything that we talked about today that you didn't really understand kind of
Mhm.
why we're doing it, what we're doing, and how it benefits you from today moving forward? Making sure that we give them our personal emails and say, hey, if you, as soon as you get in the car, because most people forget a lot of what we talk about in that 60 to 90-minute session. If you get in your car and drive away here and you get home, you're like, damn it, what was Ryan talking about? Have an email available to make sure that we can be there for people. And like you said, man,
Okay.
yeah, just making sure that, and this is where I think it's really valuable sometimes to be a generalist, so that,
Mm.
and when I have my mentorees and the coaches I work with and the educational stuff we do, when I have students that are working with us, those that really thrive, it's less about their skill set from a getting people out of pain standpoint. You know, they can be the best manual therapists in the world and really be able
Mm.
to work on someone's shoulder, or be the best exercise program in the world. But the more that they can communicate to people and to be a generalist and just find ways to have communication around what's going on and understand, oh, here's what's going on with this person, here's where they want to be, and just find ways to develop that rapport and have a commonality in that approach. Those are the people that really just stand out and exceed from a service standpoint any expectations
Mhm.
that patient came in with. And
Yeah.
at the same time, I mean, like you said, yeah, most people that come to us, they've probably been referred to someone from their, you know, maybe orthopedic surgeon that was within their network system. They went there, probably didn't work out. So they come to us and they reach out and say, hey, they helped me a little bit. We did traditional rehab, didn't get me where I wanted to be. So they definitely come in. And if we don't
Mhm.
understand kind of what that end goal looks like, if we're not
Mhm.
enough of a generalist to have a little bit of an understanding of a lot of different things, and
Mhm.
we only understand CrossFit, or we only understand how low back pain looks like with golfing mechanics, to
Mhm.
me, you're missing out on a lot of different ways where you can start connecting those dots. And really what I teach my students is just, you know, find ways to connect those dots, build commonality, find ways to engage in conversations of
Yeah.
finding something that's, you know, you understand, that they understand. And at the end of the day, yeah, not only are you building the rehab exercise plan to get them where they want to be, but now you're going to be liked. Now you're going to be trusted. And
Hmm.
whatever you say, now you're going to be more effective in getting them not only to where they want to be, but, just getting rid of that pain, being a solution to their problem, which at the end of the day, we're always trying to be.
Yeah, that's such a valid point, because I think anybody that's had an experience working with a medical professional,
Yeah.
typically the experience is very stale.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just based off of my personal experiences, but that's what I've felt. But I love your guys' approach, that at the end of the day, we want to establish a foundation for a healthy relationship between
Yeah.
client and coach. And really, it's like you can become friends to the point where you trust each other, that you're putting their success in your hands, and they're willing to do that because they can trust you.
Yeah, and one thing that I took away from PT school when I back in 2014 was we had a lecture on like litigation and being sued from a healthcare practitioner standpoint. And what our professor was talking about was the surgeons or the physical therapists, whatever medical professional it might be, the ones that get sued are the ones that just nobody likes. You could be from a tactical standpoint, the best surgeon in the entire world, the best one that
Mm,
goes in and takes the stuff out, puts the right stuff in, sutures it, whatever, the best in the world. But if you have terrible bedside manner, if people don't like you, you're now exponentially more likely to be sued. And that's really what what I'm always trying to kind of keep in the back of my mind. It's not, we're just trying to be the friends of everyone and be their buddies and just to kind of hang out when we're doing, rehab and whatnot. But again, the more that we can be someone that they like to hang out with, that we can be there for them, and they, if they're having a tough time getting out of pain or just stuff day to day life, and when we talk about this whole pain standpoint of stress and diet and sleep, and sometimes when we're in our 60-minute evaluation, we might not even get up off the plinth. It might just be 60 minutes of talking. They're
mhm.
coming there and they're going to expect like, oh, aren't you going to look at my shoulder range of motion? Are you going to start taking me through shoulder rehab exercises? That's what everyone else does. But if we can have those meaningful conversations, we can peel back the layers of that onion to really figure out what's going on at their true core,
Yeah.
from an emotional, psycho emotional standpoint, stress, diet, and sleep, like I was alluding to. And we can just start tackling that immediately from that get go. They can go home and now start implementing things that can give us exponentially more return on that investment versus them
Mhm.
doing 3 sets of 10 shoulder exercises. But again, if we're not, like you said, if we're stale, if we're in our buttoned up tie and lab coats and we're just sitting there with our clipboards and not engaging in any meaningful conversation,
Mhm.
then to me, our ceiling is always going to be lower than what it truly could be. Yeah, they might get out of pain, but long term, they're probably not going to work with us. We're not going to be a lifelong, they're not going to become a quote unquote super customer where they reach out to us when things aren't going well, when they're going through a divorce and now they realize that their nervous system's shot. And that's why they're
Mm.
having back pain 24/7. We want
Wow.
to make sure we can be there for them. And like,
Wow.
just as an example, like I just demonstrated, how we can connect the dots and say it's not because you herniated your disc, it's because you haven't slept well, because you have a newborn, because you're right now in our current times of what's going on, it's because you're
Sure.
laid off and you can't pay the bills. That's why
Sure.
you're not feeling like your true self. Here's how we can just slowly start creeping back to regaining that truest version of yourself.
Mhm.
And obviously there's some things we can address and we can't change, but again, if we can just say one or two things that provides value for them, that gives them a little bit of ease of comfort and gets rid of a little bit of that uncertainty, to me, man, that's the most powerful thing we can provide.
We want to be able to pan out and to really consider the people that we're able to help from a very holistic standpoint. And
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, it's
yeah.
great.
That's a perfect word. And to me, that goes well beyond anything just health and wellness related.
Hmm.
If that's someone listening to this and they're working in a corporation and they do marketing, they do sales, they're in the
Mhm.
IT department. It's how can you be valuable to the people around you, and how can you identify what are the things that are causing the greatest amount of burden and stress and uncertainty. And again, all of us in this world right now are dealing with that. And that's really, if there's anything that it brings me ease and comfort, is understanding that we're all dealing with the same things right now. Literally every single human being on this planet is dealing with this, um,
Mhm.
of this current pandemic. And if we can, not, and picturing this from like when you look at all the diagrams of how social distancing, you plant one seed and then that touches 5 people and that touches 10 people and that's how the disease spreads. I'm imagining
Hmm.
with that. It's kind of the same thing when we start talking about this way we can be of value to others.
Yeah,
If I reach
love
out to
that.
one person and say something that allows them to feel better, now they do that to two, three other people. That's
Yeah.
how we really start creating some change with the stuff and getting us back to where we want to be.
Absolutely. And that's really the purpose of our conversation today, too, is just to make
Yeah.
sure to
Yeah,
our
man.
respective audiences in our social networks, our professional networks, that we're
Yeah.
getting more awareness and light on the ways that we can impact the most positivity on our communities the best way.
That's
And
scalability at its finest.
since we're kind of discussing the COVID-19 situation, can
Mhm.
you share with us how Pure Physio has uniquely pivoted its day-to-day operations so that they can continue to have a successful way of servicing your current clients?
Been difficult. It's been a tough situation for us, especially as healthcare practitioners. I guess one thing that we did a little bit differently um, in Ohio here, and I guess everywhere throughout the country, physical therapy was deemed essential. So we really weren't forced to close our doors or close up our clinic. But in order for us to kind of everything we're talking about, to be the leaders, to make sure that we were doing the right things and being responsible, we decided to close up our clinic. So we weren't treating anyone. I think we closed up for about 5 weeks. We
Hmm.
started really when we started to see the numbers spreading. It wasn't going in the right direction. We just want to make sure that we were being a part of the problem and not the solution. So we closed our doors. So obviously any in-person treatment,
Mm,
clinical care was not happening at that point in time. So really the only way that we could continue to be the resource we wanted to be was with everything online. So we've always offered free 15-minute consultations. We've been doing that for years. So we obviously continue to do that. We offered 2-3 weeks of free tele-rehab consultations, virtual, just like we're doing right now on Zoom.
very cool.
So we had probably on average, probably like 30 to 40 of those a week, lasting
Wow.
upwards of like an hour. So we had 4 of our clinicians doing that pretty much every day. Really just shifting everything virtually. We were doing a lot more
Got
online
it.
programming, so something we've already done. But if we knew there was someone post-op and they really needed to get a lot of that, it's just transitioning everything onto online via True Coach, um,
Hmm.
making sure that we could still get them that stimulus in rehab. Yeah, and it was just making sure we continue to be a face and voice for people via our Instagram, via our YouTube, doing things like this, getting people on. Yeah, you had you on just kind of talk about what's
Hmm.
been going on,
Yeah.
getting leaders that I respect and I think people really needed to hear. Just doing
Hmm.
things like that, producing content. If there's anything that we could provide people that we felt like they needed to hear. Like we had a local physician that was a friend of ours and a friend of the clinic, just get on there and just, kind of give his thoughts on what he feel like people needed to do, stay at home, just be
Yeah.
safe, take care of your loved ones. Cause,
Yeah.
with who we're working with, a lot of our active clientele, sometimes they didn't want to be home. They wanted them being home is the worst thing they could ever do. Right.
Hmm.
So just to have that reaffirmation, like, no, this is what you need to be doing. You're not lazy by staying at home with your family and loved ones and quarantining yourself. But people need to hear that. So just giving them that, that's really how we transition things. And
Awesome.
then we reopened our clinic, I think about 3 weeks ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago. We've only been doing like one clinician in the clinic at a time just to make sure we're still doing the right things.
Right.
Slowly kind of getting back to our normal routine schedule, full caseload. But yeah, that's kind of how we shifted everything. A little bit more remote, a little bit more virtual, and yeah, it worked out. But yeah,
Very cool.
yeah. So it was tough, but at the end of the day, there could have been way worse things going on. We all stayed
Sure.
healthy. We not, from my understanding, no, there were none of our patients that got COVID. Our family, ourselves as clinicians, our family stayed healthy, which is also a really big concern. We didn't want to spread it to any of our patients, and we didn't want to be getting it and bringing it to our homes either. So,
That's good.
yeah, man, it worked
Good
out
to
to the
hear.
best it could.
And it sounds like you guys continued, even with this pandemic that we're all experiencing, Pure Physio continued to be a resource for valuable conversations, valuable help. We need that.
The biggest problem that's going on right now is, everyone seems to have a voice, for better
Hmm.
or worse. And we kind of talk about this version of being a solution to people's problems and continue to kind of show your value and stand out from the crowd. I think that's really difficult right now because really everyone's talking. It's just there's a
Hmm.
lot of noise. There's a lot of people, saying these different things. So it was hard for us to kind of to say the right things and make sure people were still listening to it. And I think we're all trying to battle with that a little bit right now. But
Mhm.
and everyone right now seems to, they all think they have the solution. What I'm saying is the best, and here's the solutions to everyone's problems, right? Everyone seems to
Mhm.
have the magic formula.
Mhm.
But we tried to come at it from the approach of, what's our value, what's our skill set, what's our experience. And I
Mhm.
think even people who feel like sometimes they're hesitant to share that, they feel like they don't have anything of value to
Right.
share
Right.
with others. I think we all have something we can say, and I think if you look at your skill set, if you look at your experiences, both from a standpoint of what has worked and what also hasn't worked, sometimes that can be the biggest value you can bring people. Hey, here's what I've done. It didn't work out. Let me show you the path not to take as well.
Mm.
So I think sometimes when we think about this, it's, yes, we want to have the right conversations, but come at it from, and what I am about to say, is it valuable? And if someone listens to it, are they going to come out on the opposite end of that better for hearing it?
Yeah.
So, in my opinion, it's share your experience, share your value, share your medicine, right? If we're trying to think about it from a medicine standpoint, something that's going to improve someone's day-to-day life, get them out of pain, whatever it is, share your medicine and just make sure that whoever's listening to it, they're going to be better off for hearing
I love that. Share your medicine. And
that.
that's really what all of us need in one way or another.
Yeah.
Whether that's, um, you take the meaning of what medicine can do for you, both from a physical standpoint, but also with your mental health as well. There's lots of it out there. We just have to make sure we're taking in the right kinds.
Yeah. And that, I mean, for myself personally, with my own like personal social media, like
Mhm.
I don't do a great job with social media. I'll be upfront about that. I don't really
I
enjoy
love
it.
your content. I,
Well,
I find it valuable.
well, if you do love it, probably why you like it is because you can resonate with what I'm saying from like a value delivery standpoint. Because everything you put out, it's high value. You're approaching it from the standpoint of, if is there anyone that if they listen to this, whether it's one person or 10 people, is there someone out there that needs to hear it? And so if I'm thinking about from a content standpoint, like what I'm about to say, what I'm about to put out there, like, is there someone out there, at least if it's even one person that I feel like hears it, and now they can take that and benefit their day-to-day life,
Yeah,
benefit their business, get them out of pain, whatever it might be, then I'm going to put it out there. So it's like,
love
is it
that.
valuable? Is there someone out there that needs to hear it? If yes, in my opinion, if I think it's yes, and it might not be still, but at least in my opinion, it's yes,
Hmm.
then I'm going to put it out there. So, and
There you
that's,
go.
anytime I'm thinking like, I don't want to say anything. It's been like a week since I've posted. And this is a conversation I was having with one of my mentors. It's like, if my audience is coaches, if my audience is my clients, and they feel like they need to hear that, then it would be a detriment. It would be my own fault to not say those things. And I think, sometimes people are like, well, I don't want to say it. I don't want to, I don't want to, for my family and friends who are looking at it, I feel like I'm annoying them. It's like, that's not what it's about.
No,
Here's
that's
your
not what it's
brand,
about.
here's your voice, here's who needs to hear it. If one person finds value in it, you have to post it. If you don't,
Yeah.
then you're doing them a disservice.
So if they want to reach out to you, if they want to learn more about Pure Physio and Dr. Ryan Summers, where should they go?
Yeah, so you can follow me on Instagram. I'd say that's, like we talked about, probably my main form of
Hmm.
being a resource for people, at dr.ryan.summers. That's my personal Instagram. You can follow us at pure_physio, PHYSIO, on Instagram as well. That's from a business standpoint where we post a lot of things. Yeah, and I guess the main way, if you feel like you're listening to this, and I'm someone that you want to reach out to just to get a better idea of what next
Hmm.
step you need to take, reach out. I have what's a link tree in my bio.
Hmm.
Schedule a 15-minute consultation. You can send me a message, but in my opinion, really the best way I can be of value and to understand, like we've talked about, currently where you are is point A. If I can find a way to start bridging the gap from point A to point B, I think the best way is just for us to jump on a conversation, and jump on a phone call.
Cool.
You can do that throughout the world. So go to my Instagram, go to my bio, schedule a call. If anyone's listening to this and there's one piece of information you listen, you're like, hey, I want to talk a little bit more about that, please do not hesitate to reach out. Again, if there's anything that I try to do is provide value, and be a resource for people, whether you're a coach and you're working with clients trying to get them out of pain. So I do a lot of educational
Hmm.
things with our immersion and our ProPath stuff, with Active Life
Yeah.
RX. So that's a way we can go about it. And then obviously reaching out at Pure Physio. Yeah, like I said, we just try to be a resource for people, whether it's in Cleveland here locally or really throughout the country. Go there, reach out. We'll talk about what's going on, and try to see if we can be a resource for you.
Thank you so much, Ryan. I look forward to doing this again soon. Be safe, stay
Yeah.
healthy, and wishing you a lot of peace too during this time.
Likewise, man. Yeah, all the love to you and Ali. Thanks for
Thank
continuing
you.
to be a voice of reason for everything going on. Yeah, man, continue to do what you're doing. I really appreciate you chatting with me today. And yeah, hopefully we can do it again soon.
Sounds good. Talk to you soon.
All right, brother. See you.